in HD from WVUE TV New Orleans. This is Fox 8 News at 6.
The legal fight against BP is definitely moving forward as victims, including the hospitality industry, try to recoup some of what they've lost or expect to lose. Attorney Steve Herman representing several of those victims. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the folks adding on to this lawsuit. We knew you had been representing some restaurateurs.
Correct.
But now you've got about 8 local hotels joining in on the suit as well, right?
Yeah, what they're concerned about is the same thing that the restaurants are concerned about. You have this federal legislation that's intended to compensate people that are going to have economic loss from the spill, and are they going to be left out in the cold? And we don't know what's going to happen 3 months or 3 years from now, but we want to make sure that they're covered under the act and that they can present claims to BP or ultimately to somebody else, to the trust fund or to the courts, so that they can be compensated, because they're sure to lose some business either directly or indirectly.
So right now it's a precautionary measure. We're not seeing the business drop off yet, but they expect to down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to quantify. I mean, it's very easy when you have, okay, I canceled because I'm worried my favorite restaurant's not going to be open. But it's very hard to quantify what conventions are we going to lose in the future, what people are not calling right now, or calling Boston or going somewhere else. And before we engage, or our clients have to engage in those complicated and perhaps expensive analyses to present to BP, we want to make sure that they're covered.
We're talking about, just to name a few, the Bourbon Orleans, the Dauphine Orleans, Crown Plaza, Marriott on Convention Center.
Yes.
What do you think they're entitled to?
Well, that's going to be a question for BP first, but I think what they're ultimately entitled to is if they can establish that they've lost business because of this spill, because people didn't want to come to New Orleans, were afraid to come to New Orleans, didn't want to risk coming to New Orleans, then they're entitled to be compensated. That was the intent of the act when Congress passed it.
And obviously the concerns are more than with just them. We saw the Convention and Visitors Bureau in the past couple days put out a release, hey, New Orleans is open for business, don't cancel. Let me ask you as well, we've got a hearing today at 2:30. It revolves around the BP claims process. What can we expect to see happen this afternoon?
Well, the problem that people have been having is, and I guess I'm somewhat sympathetic to BP because they've got a tremendous problem on their hands, but they're trying to manage this claims process, and people are being told all kinds of different things and being required to show different documents, and there's translation problems, and there's some prejudice if you're represented by an attorney, there's some risk if you're not represented by an attorney, so there's all kinds of confusion. And so we're asking Judge Barbier in the Federal District Court here to kind of take some supervision over the process, maybe appoint a special master so we can get some consistency. And what BP has done in response to these motions is kind of come forward and said, okay, we're clarifying things, and hopefully we can continue to work together, maybe informally, or maybe the court might exert formal jurisdiction.
So hopefully this will just make the process more smooth and ensure that folks can get their claims in.
Exactly.
Do you expect to see a final decision or outcome today, or is this preliminary?
We could see a final decision, or the court could just say, look, you've got these issues that you're wrestling with. Why don't you guys work on them, come back to me in a week, and tell me where you are.
And we'll check back in with you then, too.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for
really
having me.
appreciate it. Let's head back over to Rob.
All right, guys, thanks a lot.